Hi everyone, welcome to FilmDirt. I finally managed to watch Doctor Sleep for the very first time. In my last video where I reviewed The Shining, I did mention that I did like the overall story and I found it really interesting, and also the actors as well just made it interesting. I don't know how they can expand that in this film, and while I was viewing this I realised that it's a difficult task to follow such an amazing cultural film. I mean, this is a very familiar film and it's become like an iconic Stanley Kubrick film where he's established as a master auteur of movies. So he covered the aspect of the child, Danny Torrance, possibly seeing ghosts or shining in this story. I've actually not heard that expression before where you get a gift of the shine. So I found out why that movie was called The Shining, and those elements are now carried over to an adult, Dan Torrance, who can see ghosts and evidently when they're about to die or be put to sleep. So he's a kind of Dr. Sleep in this film. And he encounters various characters from the other side that tell him how to deal with this problem, because it has become a problem. He can't live a normal life without seeing dead people. And he bumps into various people that have been recast from the original film, and I found that off-putting. I know the cast are doing their utmost and bringing those characters to this film because it has been 40 years since The Shining, but I found some of these flashbacks or reenactments of what happened in The Shining almost beat for beat identical. They should have just used footage from The Shining. In particular, Jack Nicholson's character, who's now played by Henry Thomas, the child star in E.T. I thought he was a star then, but for whatever reason I haven't seen him in too many films, and he comes back in this one playing Jack Nicholson, and I don't think it's quite there. Jack Nicholson's got a way about him, hasn't he? He's got that, I don't know, I mentioned the crazy eyes in the past, and there's a depth behind the character and behind those eyes. Very few actors can actually not only bring that to the screen, but actually play Jack Nicholson bringing that to the screen. I'm not doubting Henry Thomas's ability, but there was just something lacking there. They needed a bit more of a manic character. There seemed to be maybe a subtlety to those scenes in the bar, having a father-son chat with Ewan McGregor's character, Danny Torrance, who played him brilliantly. I thought, there's an ability to play in one character and there's ability to play in another character. And I think Danny Thomas was played brilliantly by Ewan McGregor. But Jack Nicholson is completely different, isn't it? It's just such a larger-than-life character. Perhaps they should have just used stock footage and having a voice off camera. That probably would have been the way forward in my eyes. He's not alive in this film, so you could fudge the lines somewhere with having the thoughts in Danny's head rather than, standing there behind the bar in front of him. And the same goes for the actress playing Wendy, his wife. There was a certain look about Shelley Duvall in that film. It's very difficult to replicate that. And again, a couple of her shots were beat for beat identical. They should have just used, the previous footage from that movie. I don't know if there was any restrictions they had, but they should have seriously considered it and having her voice off camera or doing something that would have her maybe in a different body, not actually the same looking or supposed to be the same looking character, because having to recast established faces doesn't always work. And moving past those aspects of the film, which I found a little bit off-putting, there's some other very odd decisions made and avenues you went down. Rose the Hat, I don't know what this cult was supposed to be about or what their objective was at taking the essence of people. It just came across as very odd. Now, there was something tragic about The Shining. We had this family that took those steps to get away from the stresses of their mundane lives and go to this hotel for a getaway, but it just makes things worse. And Shelley Duvall especially, I felt she delivered the horror perfectly. But we move away from that. Danny is just finding himself drawn into the weirdness here, and it's not tragic enough for me. I know he's suffering from alcoholism and his life is suffering for it. He seems like a bit of a drifter. but the horror doesn't seem to be there. I mean, it's just weird what they're doing in this film. But the callbacks to The Shining were good. It seems like they rebuilt a lot of those hotel sets, and it was nice to step back into that world. You know, it's been a long time since The Shining, and there hasn't really been another film like it in my eyes, or even another filmmaker like Stanley Kubrick. But we almost got there, didn't we? And that's possibly the advantage of Doctor Sleep. There was some interesting things there, but just overall, the subject just wasn't interesting enough. And in this case, what was interesting was the story and the visuals centred around The Shining. But in this film, we didn't get more of the same, unfortunately. It possibly needed a rewrite or a replan for the whole overall story, because what we've done is we've centred on a smaller aspect of The Shining, which was Danny seeing ghosts. So we go down that rabbit hole, almost Twin Peaks-like, where we get to a point in the film where you start to get confused, well I did, and just wondering, why is it not holding my interest? It all seems just a little bit of a shame. So let's give it a score, because I did find some of this film quite interesting, and the callbacks to The Shining, I'll give it 3 stars. And it's probably a one and done for me. I won't be in any hurry to revisit. So, thanks very much for listening to my thoughts on this film. Did you find it just as interesting as The Shining? Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree. And like and subscribe, of course, to catch me again next time. It was great speaking to you. All the best and take care.